Yanakaya Chaksum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupakaramaya Dadati Sapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sanyavari Paschatsarishakarane Panchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Shai. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining. Happy Balarama's Rasayatra and happy Vasant Panchami, which means the 5th day of spring. Those are the 2 days, holidays we're celebrating right now. So that's why I thought to speak about this beautiful pastime of Lord Balaram. So hello, Patrick. Hello, Sadhana. Hello, Little Cow. And hello, Andrea Prabhus. Okay, I know my sister and George aren't joining because it's the first day of Passover tonight. So we'll see who else joins. So I wanted to start by saying that these pastimes of Krishna, pastimes of Balaram, they're meant to help us visualize. Can you hear me? And my computer says connection lost. Okay, they're meant to help us visualize or imagine ourselves in Krishna's Leela or play. Oh, I forgot to say, be sure to have a pen for noting down for takeaways. So be sure to have a pen. So they're meant to help us be able to visualize or imagine ourselves to one day also be able to join these beautiful pastimes of love. And in Vrindavan, this Vasant Panchami, the 5th day of spring, at that time of year, the fields are all yellow with mustard seeds, mustard plants growing. So they're all yellow. And people celebrate this day wearing yellow. Gauravani and I were once at a beautiful kirtan with some very kind of shishi ladies in Mumbai. It was kind of a ladies kirtan program. And we were instructed, everybody wears yellow. And all these, whatever it was, 150 shishi ladies from Mumbai, everybody was wearing yellow and we were wearing yellow, and it was just so much fun. And they were throwing yellow flowers all around. So it's a beautiful celebration of the beginning of spring. So once Srila Prabhupada said that, I think he was actually quoting from the Brahma Samhita, that Krishna is ever inviting, or the commentary from his guru, Bhakti Siddhanta, Krishna is ever inviting the fallen conditioned souls, who is namely us, right, to associate with him in pastimes of love. So these pastimes of Krishna are kind of like Prabhupada would also use the word canvassing. Krishna sort of advertising his play and his pastimes. Come to Goloka, like you see this, come to Hawaii, come to New York, come to Florida, right? So this is Krishna. Come to Goloka Vrindavan and enjoy with him. So Krishna does his rasa dance, his circle dance with his beloved gopis in the autumn season, which sometimes people say is the most beautiful season in India. But then spring is also the most beautiful season. So they're the 2 most beautiful seasons of the year. So Balaram has his own rasa dance in the spring season. And he has his own gopi lovers also. I have one god sister, her name is Balai, and that means that she's a gopi of Balaram, Balai. So So it's described that there are 12 different rasas or mellows or tastes of loving emotions. And maybe you're familiar with the 5 principal ones, the 5 direct rasas, which would be neutrality or peace, like the yogis, servitude, friendship, parental relationship, and then conjugal relationship. But then there's 7 indirect rasas that are sometimes present and sometimes not present. And those are humor, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. So those are the 7 indirect ones. Should I repeat that? No, it's all right. Okay. So the direct rasas are always manifesting in Goloka Vrindavan or in the spiritual world. And yeah, the indirect ones are sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest. And Balaram in particular, Lord Balaram, he's very often showing a humorous rasa, or also in his incarnation as Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya's associate, often very humorous, joking around. But then also, especially Lord Balaram, likes to display pastimes of anger. And sometimes Nityananda would do that too, but Balaram, I would say more. And Balaram is also always liking to show off his strength. So his name, Bala, means strength, and Ram means pleasure. So he takes pleasure in his extraordinary strength. And I would say his pastimes are really off the grid, as we'll see in this charming pastime that we're going to unpack tonight. So Krishna and Balaram, they're away they went to Mathura to kill the evil uncle Kamsa, and then the kingdom was moved to Dwarka. So they were away in Mathura and then in Dwarka. And they have the responsibilities of their family there, the Yadu dynasty, their birth parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. And they have this obligation of their appearance to destroy the evil kings who are burdening the earth. So yeah, it said that the earth planet can carry any kind of burden, but Mother Earth can't hold the weight of a liar or a cheater. So these evil kings who were such cheaters were such a burden on the earth planet. So yeah, so they're performing their obligatory duties, Krishna and Balaram, there they are, Mathura and then Dwarka, but they're just deeply missing the residents of Vrindavan. And of course, the residents of Vrindavan are barely maintaining their life, the breath of their life, just based on Krishna's promise that he would one day return to them. So they're just hanging on to life, just remembering that Krishna said he would come back. So the big question that naturally we would be thinking here is, well, if Balaram goes back to Vrindavan to relieve the suffering of the residents, why didn't Krishna go back too to relieve their suffering, right? So here's where we have to, ask and lean into the wisdom of the great bhakti teachers, are called acharyas, or the authorities in bhakti. And they explain, here's the reason, that Krishna's relatives in the Yadu dynasty, Vasudeva, Devaki, all the Yadu dynasty, they knew that Krishna is controlled by love. And that if he goes to see the Vrajabasis in Vrindavan, the residents of Vrindavan, he'll never come back to Mathura, to Dwarka. So they stopped him, they prevented him from going. So then the next question comes, well, how could Balaram, who's dearer to Krishna than his own life, how could he leave his brother Krishna in Dwarka? So the great acharyas settle this argument by saying that Balaram had such eagerness to go to Vrindavan that his discrimination and his sense control completely disappeared from his heart. He just was so eager to go. He just went. So that's what the acharyas say. So I thought that was really beautiful. So so Balaram, he goes to Vrindavan riding on a chariot. And actually, I wanted to say one thing right in here. You know what? actually in Dwarka to soothe Krishna's heart, because he was always missing Vrindavan so much. Lord Brahma asked the great architect of the demigods, whose name is Vishwakarma, he asked him to create a Nava Vrindavan, or new Vrindavan, in Dwarka. So Krishna actually has a new Vrindavan in Dwarka, where it's like a pleasure garden with peacocks and cuckoos and parrots and all beautiful trees and stuff. And he can go there and put on a cowherd dress and pretend like he's a cowherd boy. So he actually has sort of like a fake, well, it's a real, right, Vrindavan there to soothe his mind when he's living in Dwarka. Yeah. So, and sometimes Rukmini sees him and he's completely bewildered, and she has to kind of usher him back to the palace. And anyway, that's interesting. So here's Balaram. He comes on a chariot, and all the cowherd boys and the gopis, they're all grown up by now, right? And they all see him and they start embracing him and hugging him, and they're so happy to see him. And then he goes to see Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, and he bows down and offers his obeisances to him. Such a beautiful culture based on respect, right? Everybody's respecting everybody. So he bows down, and then he embraces them, they embrace him. And then he's grown up now, but they hold him on their laps, and they begin what Prabhupada calls their perpetual business of crying. And they're holding him on their laps, and they're just wetting him with their tears. And then, all the different elderly cowherd men and younger cowherd boys, they come, and, depending on the age and the relationship, they all start bowing down and hugging him. And then there's loud laughter, and depending on, the age and the relationship and the friendship. And they all surround him, and they start asking all the residents of Vrindavan come and surround him. And they just start asking him all these questions. And so they're asking him, and there's kind of something I wanted to mention, which is part of the Vrindavan mood. It's kind of like an indirect way of asking something. It's like a very subtle kind of culture. They don't just straight out like an American would do, hey, what about that? No, they just sort of like, they say, how are Vasudeva and Devaki and you and Krishna, grown-up married men with children now? And then they just sort of like come in from the side and say, do you ever remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda? And there's like all these sort of indirect kind of innuendos. And they say, we're very happy to hear that the sinful Kamsa has been killed by you both, and Jarasandha has been killed, and Kalayavan has been killed, and you're now living in a palatial protected fort in Dwarka in the middle of the ocean. And then what happens next is then the gopis come up, and he's glancing at them with loving eyes. And all of these indirect kind of nuanced innuendo and inference, I would say. So the gopis start their indirect questioning, asking whether, they ask Balaram, is Krishna enjoying his life now, surrounded by all the sophisticated city women of Dwarka? And does he ever remember? They really want to know, does he ever think of me? Does he ever think of us, right? But they're saying, does he ever remember his father and mother, or his other friends in Vrindavan with whom he behaved so intimately when he was here? Does he ever think of us? And does Krishna ever plan to come back to see his mother, even one time? Does he ever remember us gopis? And then they're saying, he might have forgotten us because he's surrounded by all the cultured women of Dwarka, but we're still remembering him. We're just collecting flowers and making them into garlands, and we're just crying. And Krishna's left us. He's gone off to a foreign country, not caring about us. He's so clever and cunning. He makes up very nice words just to cheat us, telling us, don't worry, don't worry. The service you rendered to me is impossible for me to repay. Very fancy words, right? But we're just simple village girls. But Krishna won't be able to cheat the women of Dwarka like he cheated us. They're very clever and very intelligent. They're not simple village girls like us. And then one of the other gopis says, well, Krishna has perfected the art of smiling, and any woman would be captivated by him. So then another one of the gopis says, kind of exasperated, right? Well, what's the use of even talking about Krishna? Let's just talk about something else. Because if cruel Krishna can pass his time very happily without us, then why can't we do the same? Why can't we pass our time without talking about him? But the trouble is that we just can't. So their love is so overwhelming, you know. So I just wanted to make the point in here that it sounds like some kind of torture, doesn't it? But actually, Krishna, then this is a very inconceivable mystic principle, that Krishna is not different from his separation. And that sounds really inconceivable to us. But the more they remember him, or even we try to remember him, talk about him, hear about him, chant his name, remembering him, chant his name while remembering him, not thinking of the phone calls I have to make, or the laundry, or I haven't called my mother in a week, or all that, but actually chant his name while remembering him, then the more they become overwhelmed with this ecstasy of separation. And we can also follow that path by remembering him even in separation. So that's a very, very important point to note down, that he's not different from his separation. And even one great devotee writes in a poetry that when he's in union with Krishna, there's only one Krishna. But in separation, he's seeing Krishna everywhere. There's Krishnas everywhere. So that's why Krishna wants us to see this example of the gopis and their love and separation it's just unsurpassed by any other devotees anywhere. And that's why Lord Chaitanya taught that there's no greater love than the love of the gopis. And that's why Lord Chaitanya left Navadvip. He left all his friends and family to make this love of the gopis famous all over the world. Again, advertise really the love of the gopis everywhere. So here they are, they're just crying to Balaram, and he can understand their ecstasy, and he's so expert in pacifying them. And he starts relaying Krishna's confidential messages that he sent to them, and telling them stories about Krishna, just to soothe their hearts. So he stayed in Vrindavan for 2 full months, the months of April and May. And he stayed with the gopis every night in the forest of Vrindavan, just to satisfy their desires for this conjugal love, this amorous conjugal love. So just imagine Vrindavan in the beautiful spring season, moonlit nights, and they're on the banks of the river Yamuna, and the fragrance of the night blooming jasmine, lotuses. And so then here comes this really famous story, which you might have heard. So what happens is Varuna, the demigod of the ocean, he's in charge of the ocean. He sends his daughter, Varuni, in the form of liquid honey. And this liquid honey in the forest of Vrindavan is just oozing out of the hollows of the trees. And it's so fragrant. It's making the whole entire forest intoxicatingly fragrant. And so then Balaram and these gopis, Balaram's gopis, they're all just drinking this Varuni beverage together. And the gopis are chanting the glories of Balaram, and Balaram is so happy, and they're all really, really intoxicated, and Balaram's eyes are rolling around, and he's wearing these long garlands of forest flowers, and it's just a complete festival of happiness. And so then Balaram decides he wants to enjoy the company of his gopis in the water of the Jamuna River. And he calls Yamuna to come nearby. And she's ignoring him because she's considering him to be intoxicated. So she's just ignoring him. And so Balaram gets very angry at Yamuna for neglecting his order. And he calls for his plow, he has 2 weapons. that he can just summon at any moment, a plow and a club. He's very expert at fighting with a club also. So these are his two personal weapons. So he calls for his plow, and he decides to punish Yamuna and bring her by force because she didn't come when he asked her to come. So he tells her, "You wretched river, you don't care for my order. I'll show you. I'll teach you a lesson. You didn't come voluntarily when I asked you to come, and now I'll force you to come. And I'll use the tip of my plow to divide you into hundreds of tributaries. You understand?" And Yamuna got really, really afraid, being threatened like that. And she came to Balaram in her personified form as a goddess. And she came before Lord Balaram, falling at his feet. And I don't know if you've seen, I kind of looked for it, but I didn't find it. There's a really beautiful picture of this in one of the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto volumes of Yamuna holding her hands folded and coming down very humbly before Lord Balaram. Balaram standing there with a plow, his plow in his blue dress, looking super handsome. Anyway, so she starts praying to him, "My dear Lord Balaram, you are the most powerful personality, and you're pleasing to everyone, and I'm so sorry. I forgot your glorious, exalted position. And now I've come to my senses, and I'm remembering that you hold all the planetary systems on your head in your partial expansion as that snake form, Lord Vishnu's snake, Sheshanaga. You maintain the universe. You're holding the universes on your hoods. You're sustaining the law of gravity. You are the supreme personality of Godhead. We're full of six opulences." And she's apologizing and apologizing. She says, "I forgot your omnipotence and I disobeyed your order, but I'm really a soul surrendered unto you. I know you are very affectionate to your devotees. So please excuse my mistake and my impudence, and please forgive me." So Balaram very graciously, kindly forgives her. And then he decided he wanted to enjoy swimming in her waters with all the gopis, just like an elephant enjoying with many she-elephants, it's described. So then, after swimming around with the gopis for a really long time, having so much fun, he came out, and a beautiful goddess of fortune came up to him and offered him a nice dry set of blue garments. He always wears blue, like pretty much like Andrea. He likes to wear blue, always wears blue, and offered him a beautiful golden necklace. So his complexion is very white, and he looks so beautiful in his dark blue clothes and golden ornaments. So it's said that even today, the river Yamuna has many small branches, and everyone remembers this amazing pastime, glorifying the omnipotency of Lord Balaram when he divided the Yamuna River into so many branches and tributaries. So in the presence of Lord Balaram, those 2 months passed so quickly, like it was one night, and all the gopis and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan became so cheerful and happy, just like when both brothers, Krishna and Balaram, were both with them there in Vrindavan. So this kind of brings me to the end of the chapter, but I want to share a story which I know, to mention Andrea again, I know Andrea loves, and I also love this story. So I want to share this other story with you. So first you have to understand that Balaram is called the Adi Guru, or the original Guru. He's Krishna's first expansion, and he's the origin of all gurus. And it's said if one gets a guru, it's by the grace of Krishna, and one gets Krishna by the grace of the guru. So when a soul is very sincere, then Krishna in the heart of that person sends them a bona fide guru. So here's the story I want to share with you. It's so beautiful that it was 1974 in Vrindavan, and the temple, the Vrindavan Krishna Balaram temple, was supposed to open, but it was really, really late in the construction. It was not opening, and Prabhupada was really, really in a ferocious mood. Nobody, you know how usually everyone wants to hang around Prabhupada and go on a walk with him. No one would go near him because he was in such a ferocious mood. He was very, very angry. because he'd invited many dignitaries and he'd invited devotees from all over the world to come to the opening. So it was a very embarrassing situation for him because the temple was really just a construction site. So what happened was Yamuna Devi was there, and she was very, very upset with the situation, and Prabhupada kept calling her to come. She's such a wonderful cook. And Prabhupada kept calling her to come and cook for him. But she just felt like she was in such terrible consciousness that she just didn't feel like she was in any consciousness to come cook for Prabhupada. So she kept not coming, and he kept calling for her. And so finally he just demanded that she come. Prabhupada sitting in his room. I was there in Vrindavan at that time. Prabhupada was demanding that she come, and finally she came, and she's sitting in his room at the very back corner, just like kind of trying to be in his presence, but not in his presence at the same time. And Prabhupada started relating this story that we just shared, and talking about himself. Okay, Balaram, I said, is the original guru, right? So Prabhupada started talking about himself as though he was Lord Balaram, and trying to drag Jamuna, the river Jamuna, but here his disciple Jamuna, to come. So he was saying, Jamuna does not want to come, but Balaram can drag Jamuna. She does not know how powerful Balaram is. He can drag her. He can drag the whole city of Hastinapur. That's another one of Balaram's pastimes. If he wants, he can drag the whole city of Hastinapur. So he can drag Yamuna if he wants. And so meanwhile, she's just sitting there, like other people in the room didn't know what he was talking about. She knew exactly what he was talking about, and she was just sobbing. And this is one of Prabhupada's really, really charming pastimes with a very, very beloved disciple. So, yeah, so sometimes with a very dear and advanced disciple guru, and be so heavy like that. So anyway, that's the end of 2 stories. So thank you all so much for opening your ears and your hearts to enter into this captivating, charming pastime of Lord Balaram, returning to Vrindavan in the spring season to dance with the gopis. And so now I want to ask you all 3 of you, what charmed and attracted your heart tonight in this pastime? Or what will you remember tonight or tomorrow, and what will you try to share maybe with someone about Lord Balaram? Thank you so much. Who should I tag? I will tag Sana.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you. I have to drop soon, so thank you. Hare Krishna. That was very beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, this opening grabbed me entirely because I never thought of it this way before. The fact that Krishna as the personality of Godhead is the same. And in reality, that is that we're stuck in this horrible, dense Maya, this material energy, that we really need the canvassing, we are pretty, I have trouble remembering, trying to keep focus, my mind wanders. So just having the stories, which are so always thrilling, and being able to just even recall them, memorize them, smile at them, sometimes feel astonished, is those emotions and the different vivid descriptions, like the blue clothes, like how the characters, they're trying to ask these questions, and the feelings and the relationships they have with each other is just marvelous. So very thankful. I think he's very merciful in doing that for us.
Thank you so much. So you feel attracted? You feel attracted?
Oh yeah, really, yeah.
Because
even the fact that Krishna won't go back to Vrindavan is like attracting, that makes you like even think about the world, think about ourselves, about separation, and how we really feel, like at the depth of our emotion. These things is always it's always invoking as well. It's inspiring and in like new ways and new thoughts.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have so many places and so many people and so many topics in our brains. And if we don't hear these details of Krishna's pastimes, then it's very hard for us to catch Krishna in our hearts. So thank you so much for that reflection. I know Andrea likes to be last. Would you like to tag Patrick?
Yep, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you, Rukmini, for the class, and glad to be here again. Yeah, it was very beautiful, especially the longing, you know, that they feel in sort of that guilt trip in a sense. But yeah, it's always good to remember that we see more of Krishna in separation, because that really soothes the feeling of sometimes when your things aren't going your way, you remember that, and it's kind of it's a nice thing to remember. I also like the reminder of the culture of respect that you mentioned. I think you see that even in more mundane settings also, when you have some folks that are very polite and just very gracious, and then some that just don't think about those things at all, and it's who can say why, but it's nice to try to embody that when we can.
Nice.
And I was thinking about Balaram. I remember that. I think it was like in the Chasing Rhinos with the Swami book, they talked about that was that the first like deity they had in San Francisco? I can't remember if I'm wrong, but
Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram. Lord Jagannath, Balaram, yeah, Subhadra, yeah.
So those were things that I wrote down. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. It's always wonderful when you're here. So great. Okay, so then now we have Andrea.
Yeah. First off, thank you again for remembering that. That's one of my favorite pastimes to hear about Srila Prabhupada and your dear god sister Jamuna Devi Dasi Prabhu.
Amazing story.
Every time I hear you tell the story, I just the tears well up, because just to like, if you don't know of their relationship, like, which I didn't know as much when I had heard it the first time, it was with Prabhupada Leela Mrita, like the book, and you get a sense that she's special to him, but you don't get as much of a sense until you read her the biography of sorts that was written, with her notes, and then your god sister wrote the rest. And when you really then feel like understand that rasa, and then you get why she was crying, because it wasn't, at least, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I heard it is just, at first, when I had first heard the story, I thought, oh, she's crying because she's so ashamed that she was kind of reprimanded. And then after I read her biography and after I heard you tell the story, I got a sense of more of like crying out of being overwhelmed by his love for her, is what I got. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. And then that's what really moves me, that you can allow yourself to be loved by Guru. If you just have to allow yourself to be loved. I guess
think there were
my big takeaway.
many conflicting emotions, because there was, everyone had disappointed him, and he had his expectations that the temple would open. But yeah, it's only a very, very extraordinary disciple that can be chastised by a guru like that, So,
Yeah, she was amazing. Yeah, so that's a big thing. And I also made a note, Patrick, thank you for mentioning it, bowing as a symbol of a culture of respect. And I was hearing very recently the pastime about how one of your godbrothers told Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, that he didn't feel like bowing to him because he felt that it would be like hypocritical because he didn't really feel it, and how Prabhupada was just like, I'm paraphrasing, I don't think it's the exact same thing, but how he said, well, if you do it, then you will feel it. So just kind of like more like fake it till you make it, like bow until you feel it. And I feel that way too, because when I first came to Krishna consciousness, and I didn't understand why people would bow when maybe like a very learned person came into the room. And then I realized once I started doing it, wow, you really get that sense of, if I can at least start with submitting to the devotees of Krishna, then I will eventually get to the point where I can submit to Krishna and to Radha as well. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, that's beautiful. You're reminding me that once a man was visiting our temple. He was I believe he was a Seventh-day Adventist, a very dear friend, kind of a partner in dialogue. And he saw us bow down when we came into the temple, and he was so moved. You know, he was just so struck by that, like, oh my goodness, you know, these people are bowing down, you know. That really meant something. You also reminded me of this little story. It's a little off topic, but it's kind of about Prabhupada's mood of kind of being very practical and chastising a little bit. So this is a sweet story that, Andrea, that you just reminded me of. That Prabhupada was doing showing Garga Muni, one of the early disciples, how to do the bookkeeping. And Prabhupada was teaching him, and he was asking him about every penny, every nickel spent. Why did you spend 5 cents on this? Why did you spend a quarter on this? Why here? Why like grilling him on every little thing. And this was, I guess it was in San Francisco. And there was this kind of hippie girl who was there in the room, and she wanted to speak to Prabhupada. And she was just sort of witnessing this exchange over the dollars and pennies. And she was getting so exasperated that she was listening, you know, watching this scene. And then she just blurted out, I came here to find God. I came here to find truth. And you're just talking about money. And Prabhupada just looked up from the bookkeeping, and he looks at her and he goes, you came to the right place. Sit down. So I thought that was really charming.
I'm surprised he didn't say, like, this is God's money, thus,
Yeah, right.
you know, like, wait your turn.
It was so cute, you know, like, I'll be
That's
with you in
funny.
a minute. Sit
Yeah.
down. You came to the right place.
That's so sweet.
So that
I
was
love
really
that. Thank you so
all right.
much.
Well, thank you for being here. And next Wednesday, we're going to talk about Volume 1, Krishna Book, Chapter 10, The Deliverance of Nalakuvera and Mani Griva, the two puffed up demigods.
Yes.
So please,
And
Patrick,
then
make
should
it
we
next-
also mention, just so for the people that are going to watch the recording, the reminder that after that, you're
yes,
going to be traveling and we won't have Krishna Book until June 7th.
June, is it June 10th or June 7th? You
June
know better.
7th is the first
Okay.
Wednesday of June. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so please try to join if you can next week, because we're going to have a little hiatus because I'm going to be traveling. So thank you for being here, Sadhana. Sadhana had to run. Thank you for being here, Patrick. Always a great pleasure. Thank you for being here, Andrea. And thank you for bringing your open hearts and open ears to love and receive Krishna's canvassing for his pastimes. So have a great week.
Haribol. Thank you.
Haribol. Haribol, Patrick.